Again, there was a three-way tie between Murray, Bledsoe, and Rose. Right now, the way our tiebreaker went down, we would have Derrick Rose coming in at number 23.
Yeah, so Derrick Rose, he's
Good
obviously,
player.
yeah, I mean, he's a guy who seemed like obviously everyone knows that he seemed done at a point in his career. And then he really had his resurgence with New York and has just not seemed to fallen off since. I would say the only thing for him that he can't be higher is that he does seem to kind of have plateaued at his production, whatever it is right now with Minnesota, as well as obviously
Detroit.
yeah, as well as going into Detroit now. Being an 18 point per game guy, as well as being one of the better passers in the league, still very quick on the defensive end, nothing to be shy about. But again, because there's so many other good players on this list, I just don't see him improving much from his last year either. If I had to rank him last year versus the guys this year, I would rank him about in the same spot.
Yeah, no, I can completely agree. To be honest, I think actually last year over the year, I think he regressed as a player. I don't think that's a good sign for him. I actually had him a couple spots lower, but right around the same kind of area. That being said, like he has been consistent at the 18-point per game level. He put that up in New York. He had kind of had crappy year between Cleveland, Minnesota, and then he kind of came back. He's been 18 points for like 3 out of the last 4 years. But what, like, I just don't see him. If Detroit would have been healthy last year, Blake Griffin would have been healthy, Derrick Rose wasn't getting 18 points per game. The only reason he got that many points is because he put the ball up. He wasn't shooting very efficiently. He he was driving better than he ever had in his career, better than not than he had in his career, but better than since his injury, his best since his injury. But his 3-point shooting just has not improved. I thought that coming in before last year, I thought I would have valued him higher. I thought that he finally kind of went over that hump when it came to shooting. He showed it in Minnesota. He played with a great shooting team. He had all these great pieces around him. But then whenever it came down to that last year, Detroit was essentially Derrick Rose's team. And Derrick Rose in 2021, I don't think you build a team around him. I think he's going to get traded to six-man to another team, go back off the bench. He'll still put up a good 15 points per game and be a productive scorer, but he'll get limited in that sense. But he does keep up defensively, which is why he's still able to keep up there. But damn, this is a deep position when Derrick Rose is in the top 20.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he is going to have much regression. I would say he really regressed last year at all. I mean, if you look at the way he played in Minnesota, he was very much had that still slasher mentality, and he was a bit better shooting wise, but he wasn't necessarily still great. I mean, he shot 37% from three versus 30. But again, in New York, it's not something where he shot very well from three either, and he was
He shot horrible.
yeah, and he was also still an 18 point per game guy. Like it's been 3 years in a row when Derrick Rose has been the starting point guard or has gotten at least 26 minutes per game, which has been the last 3 times. He didn't start much in Minnesota, but he played over 25 per game. But wherever he goes, he's going to play over 25 minutes per game. He's not going to go somewhere where he's not when he's still actually having his kind of Derrick Rose resurgence when again everyone thought he was done. So I don't think in any regard in terms of skill or anything he regressed, and I don't think in terms
Athletic
of
ability.
I definitely don't think so. Again, if you look at the things that they were doing, the only difference is the fact that in Minnesota, he actually had guys who could make use of the things he was doing. Ultimately, though, he was a guy who's fifth at point guard in usage. Like a guy that we ranked 23rd was fifth in usage. So
Yeah,
yes, of course, when you get the ball that much, it's going to look like you're doing more things wrong. But again, there's no one around him who could do anything either. Like Derrick Rose, I think is skill wise still one of the better point guards. It's just the fact that there is so many guys who I would say are a bit more two-way and who are a bit more, a bit less one-dimensional in terms of all they could do for you. Really, it's just be that slasher who puts the ball in the net. That's really, I think, all I think Derrick Rose is really elite in terms of that category.
to me, like the fact that you're saying he's the most elite thing is him being a slasher. Those kind of players just don't last well into their mid 30s. I look at historically the last 20, 30 years, those kind of players just don't age well. And I think that Rose has very, very much surprised us. But the kind of player that ages well is the kind of player that can shoot well. So I think that unless he can shoot a little bit better, I don't think his slashing is going to last for more than another year or two. I think he's going to start going down and still be a fit. He's still very talented. He'll still score 14, 15 this year, I think. But that's kind of where I see him at. I think by the end of the year, he might fall out of our top 25 just because there's such a deep position. So many good players.
I just
Nothing bad against Derrick Rose.
I think his production will stay because he's likely to be traded around the deadline. I think Detroit, I think, is going to be a very bad team. He's going to be having, I think, a pretty decent year, and he's going to want to play on a winning team. And they did just draft a point guard as well in the first round with the seventh pick. So I don't think they're going to want to, like, they don't want to keep him for the long term because his production would go down. So I do think he's actually going to be traded at the deadline, and that's what's going to allow his production to actually stay pretty good. It might even be before the deadline, but don't
I
think.
think I think if he gets traded, his production's going to go down hard. I think another team is gonna. It's not going to get the ball as much. His usage is going to go down.
It's
And
going
it's
to be
going to
the
be.
opposite. It's going to be a team whose point guard goes down. They're going to go and get Derrick Rose. I think that's what's going to happen.
We'll see. Hopefully no injuries, right? But we'll see.
Hey, it's bound to happen every year. So I don't think his production will go down in that regard, but still definitely good player there.
And